Okay, well, welcome to Capturing Your Hispanic Heritage, Hispanic Genealogy at CALS. Well, that's my part of the program. I'm Heather Registers Abendon, and I am joined tonight by Danielle Offsorta, she's below me in this screen. Maybe she's that way. And we are going to talk about what resources the Central Arkansas Library System has to capture your Hispanic heritage, whether it be genealogy or oral history or our memory lab. And so real quick, I want to do a couple of announcements. We are both part of the Roberts Library, the Bobby L. Roberts Library of Arkansas History and Art. And two Thursdays from tonight, the 29th, we're going to have another program with Dr. Maria Escobar about the geographies of inclusion, exclusion, and safety for Hispanic young Americans, young adults, I guess I should say. And that will be on Zoom as well. So you can join us for that. And then we had tried to find a Hispanic genealogist to come and talk tonight because we are very aware that we're both white. And so we had tried to find one, and we caught people in June and they were already fully booked for Hispanic Heritage Month. So we've all gone ahead, we're so ahead of the game for next year. We have booked Colleen Green to speak on September 23rd of 2023. And I feel like I always have to tell people, yes, I typed that right. It's a Saturday afternoon. She's going to talk at 1 p.m. Central Time, virtual via Zoom. So we will get more information to folks about that so that they can tune in. And she's going to do the basics of Hispanic genealogy. It's going to be a great program. So before I kind of dive into the resources that we have available, I found this really cool map. I love a map. I found this really cool map on the internet, and this shows the United States by county, by ancestry. And so I have to look over at this screen to make sure I'm saying it right. I'm getting the right colors, but so the majority county is in so the red or the orangey color is German. The blue is African American, the green is Irish, that kind of mustardy yellow color is Mexican, purple is English, white is Italian. I'm not going to go through them all, I promise, but I just thought it was really interesting. And down there in the bottom of Florida, you can see it's kind of a deep maroon, and that's Cuban. So really kind of an interesting, different look at the United States. So now I'm going to switch screens, hopefully rather seamlessly. Maybe not. There we go. Let's close that window. When Danielle presents, she'll have all her little clicks right inside. It'll be so easy. I was not that creative. Okay, can you see the website now, Danielle? Okay, perfect. Okay, so, we're at the top, we're at the bottom of the page. Let's scroll back up. So this is a web page that we've created. It has, and Danielle's going to talk more about this in a minute. It has the oral histories that we've recently, actually Danielle, I'm not going to say we, that Danielle recently completed. And then it has these set of tabs kind of in the middle part of the page. And Danielle's going to talk about do your own interview, and I'm going to cover genealogy. And so what we've done is try to have as many resources as possible about Hispanic genealogy in one place. The first one is this Vega showcase of Hispanic genealogy. And these are basically books that folks can check out, actual, hold it in your hand books that people can check out from the Central Arkansas Library System. And so you can find that there. And then one of my first starting points is always going to be the Family Search Wiki pages. These things have so much information. I don't know that I ever read it all, And it's great for someone who's just getting started in any kind of genealogy. And this is the one that's specific for Hispanic family resources. And Family Search is when we do our other genealogy programs on the second Monday of the month, we talk about the different platforms that we have. So you have Family Search, which is a free, open to everyone. You do have to create an account, but they're not going to really email you very often. You can get access to census information. And then kind of the middle tier is Heritage Quest, which you have to use your Cow's library card to access. And then Ancestry, which everybody knows about. You see the commercials, tells you to click the leaf and all that. Ancestry is, you have to access it through, we have a library edition, you have to access it through a branch, in a branch. And so Family Search is great because you can do it from home. And you can get a lot of the same resources from Ancestry, not everything. Ancestry obviously has all of it, but you can get a lot, and they're all kind of the same company, I think. It's I don't know the genealogy of Ancestry and Family Search, but these Family Search wiki pages have so much information that can help you find databases, records, resources that you need. I really wish our menu wouldn't drop down like that. And then I've also linked quickly to, I'm not going to actually go to these, but the 12 Hispanic and Latino genealogy websites and resources, and 14 useful free resources for Hispanic genealogy. And these are blog posts that I found, and they had some good information. Some of the information is stuff I had already found, but it's nice to have it in one place. You know, we always tell people about genealogy, get with the group, you know, get with the people that are doing the genealogy. And so here are 6 Hispanic genealogy organizations in the United States. We do not have one specific to Arkansas. The closest one to us is probably going to be Houston, which has a Facebook group that seems very active. But New York is the Hispanic Genealogical Society of New York apparently is very Puerto Rican heavy, but the Society of Hispanic Historical and Ancestral Research has tons of stuff. I mean, I went down a rabbit hole there that I didn't think I was going to come out of. I found so much neat stuff. So those are some organizations. Check those out. They are membership organizations. They'll want you to join, but it'll give you some information and put you in touch with people who really know their stuff. And then state libraries and state archives are going to be the place to go to get some of these records. A lot of these records are going to be in Spanish, and so you're going to want a Spanish speaker to help you navigate these records and to understand. One of the things I saw repeatedly was the fact that Spanish names are often combination names, and so you have to try different combos. Maybe put what you think is the last name in the first name spot and vice versa to see what combinations come, because when they are translated into English, they don't often get it right. So we've all heard, you know, stories from Ellis Island and other places where names got mixed up. So try different ways. But these folks, these librarians and archivists at these different state organizations are going to be very helpful. So Arizona, California, Florida, New Mexico, and Texas are going to be your best bets. And then college and university collections. These are some, Tulane has a huge Latin American library collection. The University of California, Berkeley has a huge collection. The Florida International. So all of these are going to be collections of mainly papers that people have donated. So they'll be finding aids. And then I also kind of wondered, because we do a lot of work here or around Arkansas about land grants, and you know, who owned this land and how did it hand down, and I know that was really important, especially in South Texas. I always think about Eva Longoria talking about, I think it was in the Democratic National Convention, where she talks about how they had been in South Texas and Corpus Christi for 9 generations, so that the border actually cross them as opposed to them crossing the border. And so here are three resources for land grant information. And finally, before I do a little dive into Family Search and Ancestry, I love TV. I do. It's a fault, but I do love it. And so these are two programs that are on now on a regular basis. They're producing new episodes all the time. Who Do You Think You Are? And Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates. Who Do You Think You Are is an NBC and then was TLC for a while and now it's back to NBC show. And then Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates is on PBS. So these are episodes that are specific to Hispanic genealogy. And so we have all of the seasons of Finding Your Roots at the library that you can check out. We do not have these two seasons of Who Do You Think You Are, but I'm going to talk with collections about getting them. And so those are some great ones. Before we came on, Danielle and I were talking about the America Ferrera episode. It's really fascinating. I don't think I'm going to give any spoilers away, but her grandfather was like a general in Honduras. And it was a fascinating story to see, you know, how she traced her history with the help of genealogy experts, genealogists. So, okay, so that's kind of everything in our page or on our page. And then, okay, come on, work for me. I am remoting into my computer at work, so it's not always going to work exactly. So this is this is that Hispanic family history resources page, this wiki from Family Search. And then if you go directly to Family Search, and it will ask you to create an account. It's a free account. You have to give them your email address. I think they might send me an email every couple of months. And when they do send them, they are so interesting. I actually open them and read them. So it's worth it. It's worth it for this free access. So you'll go here, and I want to make sure I'm doing this right. I wrote down my notes so I could remember exactly where I went. Okay, so you'll go to search. And you'll go to records. And then you're going to scroll down. I mean, you could look for a specific family name. Okay, wait, it didn't do it right. I knew it wasn't going to do it. Okay, let's try this again. Come on. Oh, there it is. It just changed shape on my bigger monitor. That's what it did. Okay, so you could obviously look for the person's name if you knew the person's name. But for our exercise, we're going to look at a place. So we're going to search for a place. We're going to search for Mexico. And it's going to take you here. And it's going to show you that there are 4 collections from Family Search related to Mexico: baptisms, marriage, deaths, and the national census from 1930. The amount of collections that they'll have at Ancestry is like 10 times. So just for the purpose of our exercise, go to Mexico baptisms. And really, because our presenter is named Maria for the next program, Escobar, did I spell that right? Yeah. We're just going to look up Maria Escobar. And so here is a Maria Teresa Guadalupe de la Zu Escobar. Sorry, my pronunciation is terrible, even if I haven't just had COVID. And if you click on it, oops, and view the record, it will give you all of this information about her. It'll also tell you where it's coming from. Now, if you check for image availability, I think it will give us, yes, yay, it worked. So you'll have to search. It's not taking us directly to the image, but it shows you the record group and you can find it that way. So that's kind of the basics of searching Family Search. But now I want to go. Okay, one of the things it does funny is it's hiding my toolbar. Come back. No, this is frustrating. Okay. There we go. That's what I want it to do. Now let's make it bigger again. Okay, so Ancestry. And like I said, Ancestry is everything. It is a genealogist's dream. And so, again, you could go to census records or birth or marriage, death records, military records, and you can put in the person's name, just like it shows. It's not quite as easy as the commercials, but you put in their name and you can find some information. But if you're wanting to explore specific countries and specific collections, you can go to, of course it jumped, go to search and then card catalog. And then if you scroll down, you can filter by location. Mexico is listed here on its own. North America is here, South America as well. Mexico's also listed in North America, which I thought was interesting. I'm sure there's a rhyme and reason to that. But if you click North America and you scroll down a little bit back to filter, it'll show you all of the places in North America. So Caribbean nations, Bahamas, Barbados, Canada, obviously, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Grenada, Guatemala, Haiti, Honduras. So you can see, and it'll show you about how many collections for each. So again, let's go to Mexico. Don't really know why Irish immigrants in North America comes up first. I'm guessing that they've there's something in their code, in their tags that's wrong there, but everything else is good. So Mexico select church records. These are in Spanish. And I love how it constantly is reminding you, these are in Spanish. You know, we all need to be reminded, right? So you can type in a name here. You can type in specifics just like I do all the time for English records. You can add a family member, and then you can also go over here and choose a specific state in Mexico that you're wanting to look for, a specific city. So let's just pick. And then the parish within that state and city to go directly to those records. So we'll try Maria Escobar again. And here are the records for various Maria Escobars, born various times from, looks like we've got some 1863, 1910, 1870. So we'll just pick one. And so church record, she's female, 60 years of age, born in 1830, died May 29th, 1890, where she died, who her spouse was, and the film number. But then if you click on the image, it will bring up the actual picture. And again, it is in Spanish, but it's beautiful. So yeah, that's what you can do on Ancestry or genealogy through the Central Arkansas Library System. And then going back to even Longoria and the whole crossing the border, that the border crossed them and not them crossing the border. I found, let me see again if I can make it replicate. So if you go to card catalog, back to card catalog, and you want to type in a title or a keyword, all U.S. border crossings. from Mexico. This is an actual title, and it's not going to bring anything up. Okay, let's try keyword border. It worked so much easier yesterday, of course. Let's try. I wonder if it'll let me do two. Oops. There it is. So here are all the U.S. border crossings from Mexico, 1895 to 1964. And you can see, you can also look by specific location. If you know specifically where your person came from, and then you can go directly to the digitized microfilm. Let's jump forward some pages. Not enough pages. How did I pick the one card index of the whole thing? Okay, there we go. And one of the things that it mentioned when I found this collection, and there was a little link that said how to use this collection. It specifically said, make sure to look on the back of the card. And on some of them, obviously, well, this one, the card is side by side, but on some of them, the cards are each their own set of film. So you'd have to move to the next one, because some of them not only have more information on the back side, but include a photograph. And in genealogy world, photographs are worth their weight in gold, and we often don't find them for relatives. And so, yeah, so sometimes they said not all of them have photographs, and not even a large percentage, but some of them will. So you might get lucky. And then there are other records like the manifest of permanent and statistical alien arrivals in El Paso, and they're the ones that are the two-sided cards that are on separate films, and you need to make sure to look on either side. One card actually was 4 cards because they had more information. And then so words like alien are still being used in these records, so you can also use that as a search term. So that is the basic crash course in Hispanic genealogy with stuff at cows. So I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to Danielle right now. Yes, Danielle put a comment directly to me. Mexico is in North America. I know, but I thought it was interesting that they had a fully separate Mexico entry and then put Mexico in North America as well. I just thought that was interesting. They didn't, I don't know that they had a separate one for Canada, and it's in North America.
Oh, I meant I was talking about that specific record where you're wondering why it said Irish in North America. It probably includes Irish immigrants to Mexico.
You're right. You're right.
I don't know how common that was. 2 majority Catholic countries, maybe. I'm not sure, but.
No, I mean, I would think Irish, yeah, Catholic to Catholic, right?
Maybe.
So, okay.
All right. Can you see everything okay? On your end? Cool. All right. So, of course, we have technical difficulties. So let me jump back to the beginning of my slide. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how to conduct an oral history with a family member that may have immigrated to the United States from Mexico or Latin America. This year, as part of Hispanic Heritage Month, I had the opportunity to interview 9 people who were either from Latino or Hispanic heritage or immigrated here to the United States themselves. And as part of that process, I did quite a bit of research into what sort of questions you might want to ask and that sort of thing. And I thought it would be great as part of Hispanic Heritage Month to share that with other people who may want to do these interviews with their own family members. So that's kind of what I plan to share today. And then I also want to talk about some resources we have here at CALS that you can use to make sure that this oral history experience is the best it can be. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is kind of the outline of how you might approach an oral history project. So the first thing you're going to want to do is prepare for your interview in advance. You never want to just show up and not have planned out what questions you're going to ask and things like that, where you're going to be, how you plan to record it, that sort of thing. And then the next thing you want to do is figure out your recording setup, get set up, and make sure that you get everything recorded and saved properly. And then the last thing you want to do is make sure that you're going to get that recording preserved long term, because what was the point in the end if we aren't able to share that with people and also preserve it for forever and ever, hopefully, right? So in preparing for your interview, the first thing you're going to want to do is share a pre-interview questionnaire with that relative. You may know a lot about that person's life, and you may think, I'm ready, I can interview them, I don't need to know anything in advance. Never assume the knowledge that you have is probably accurate. Whenever you send someone one of these questionnaires, kind of forces them to think about their own timeline and get things in a proper order. You know how your relatives tell you stories. It might sound different every single time they tell you, the 25 times they told you that story. So, you know, you really want to make sure that you have sort of those timeline markers in place. And so some of those might be, especially for those who have migrated here, where did you migrate from? When did you migrate? How old were you? Who came with you? Where did you migrate to? And is there anything about your experience as a migrant or your time in the United States that you don't want to talk about? Like, that's uncomfortable for you. That brings up awful memories you don't want to revisit. We don't want you to either. That's not what this experience is for, right? And then also, is there anything else you'd like to share before we record it? Because maybe there's something that they want you to touch on that you wouldn't have thought to ask. And if they've got that something, they're going to share that. So the way I did it was very formal. I sent out like a Google form. If you're just interviewing someone in your family, just give them a call beforehand, have this list of questions, and be ready to take some notes. And just keep those notes on hand as you come up with your questions. So your next step is going to be form those questions. So I did want to point out 2 resources we have at CALS. We have a web page that Heather already showed you for this month that has both questions for folks who have migrated to the United States, and then just general questions that you might want to ask your family. So I'll run through those in just a second. And also, while you're forming your questions, be sensitive to difficult experiences. Migration is complicated, even in what would be considered some of the more simple circumstances. And it can be an upsetting experience to talk about. So be respectful that there are parts of those experiences that someone may not be comfortable sharing. And if they're shying away from responding to those questions, don't press the issue. It's not, it's not going to bear a more fruitful interview for you to dig in when someone is clearly not comfortable sharing that. So that's just some stuff for the pre-interview, and for resources we have on the webpage that you can look at in preparation. You scroll past these interviews, those are the ones I spoke about. You can listen to all of those, and I'd really encourage you to do that. In this doing your own interview section, we've got some recommendations. So we have an oral history resources page. And on that page, there is a link right here on the right that says family history questions and topics. If you open that, that will give you some general questions that you can ask of your family member about their life experiences, and that might help round out your interview. Additionally, particular to this topic, I wanted to share these interview questions from this project called Moving Stories that seeks to reimagine migration and connect communities. So there's a couple of different question sets depending on how this person relates to migration. So if they were a childhood arrival, if they migrated as an adult. There's also a set of questions for DACA recipients that I find especially interesting if you've got someone in your family that is a DACA recipient, which is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It's really interesting to hear how those experiences, how their life experiences were changed by receiving that. So there's some questions down there for that. So this is the DACA section, but the rest of it is just more relative to general migration experiences. And these are really great. I use these to form a lot of my questions. And the next thing I want to show you is the, take a second to load. In that same section, there's also a Moving Stories learning guide. And basically the organization that created the interview questions that I worked from, they also created a guide to learning how to listen empathetically and how to respond appropriately to potentially traumatic experiences and that sort of thing. So I definitely would recommend reading that as you're preparing for your interview. And the next thing I want to talk about is recording the interview. So the first thing you want to consider is format. Are you going to record this interview over Zoom or in person? Is this interview going to be audio or video? So, whoa, I'm so sorry. I don't know why that just popped up. Okay, anyway, exciting. So once you've decided those things, you can then move on to arranging the time and space and all of that. So in considering format for Zoom, if you do not have a paid account available to access, you can only record a 40-minute interview. And most interviews in my experience last longer than 40 minutes. On the low end, probably an hour. This is someone you know personally, it's probably gonna go longer than an hour. Think about how long you talk to your grandma on the phone. Like it's gonna take more than an hour probably. So think about that if you're gonna do it over Zoom. You can purchase a plan from Zoom for $15 a month. So you could just purchase it for that 1 month and then cancel it. Just be sure you do cancel it or they will charge you again, you know, those subscriptions. If you do purchase a subscription to Zoom, you also get access to cloud recording. We're going to talk a little bit more about how you should store your interviews later on. But as far as like in the moment, cloud recording is great because if you get to the end of your interview and you've pressed record and you think you got it all, and then you close out of it and it tries to save it to your computer, but then your computer shuts down unexpectedly, or you don't have enough memory on your computer to store the video file, or something else goes awry, you've lost that interview and you have to try again. And that would be really disappointing. With the cloud recording, it's recording as you're talking. So you have that reliability that no matter what happens, it's gonna be there. And I think that peace of mind might be worth $15 a month, but you know, that's up to each individual person. If you decide you do want to do it in person, you have to choose between audio and video. If you're planning to record this at home using a smartphone, I would recommend audio only because the quality is going to be better. So there's native audio apps on both Android and Apple devices. On Apple, it's called Voice Memos. I had to look up what it was called on Android because I am an Apple evangelist, apparently. It'll just be called Recorder. Both of those are fine. You can save, those save in standard audio file formats that can be used pretty seamlessly. Obviously, the advantage to video is that you get to see someone's expressions more readily. If that's important to you and you do only have a smartphone available to you and that's what you want to record with, make sure you use the camera on the back of your phone, not the front of your phone. It's much higher quality. Make sure you use a tripod. If you do not use a tripod, you're going to shake and make noise and it will all be captured. And if you can, don't touch your device, like press record and then make sure it's recording and sit down and don't touch it again. Otherwise you're gonna get feedback and all kinds of stuff on there. You're gonna want to make sure you have a good charge because recording video eats up a lot of battery. If you can have it plugged in while you're recording, do that. iPhones and Android devices have much increased video and audio capabilities than they had, you know, even 2 years ago. So you may get a perfectly wonderful interview that way. Just make sure you follow those tips. If you want to record it in person and you would like to use better equipment, there's a couple of options. We have a recording room available at the Roberts Library that patrons are able to reserve and use. In the recording room, we have a higher quality audio recorder and a high quality video recorder, and then we will send you the files after the fact. If you're able to get here and do that with your relative, I think that the quality is better. But obviously you want to cater to what is most convenient for the person you're interviewing. So doing that interview from home is completely acceptable and wonderful and will also turn out great. A couple of more tips for that experience. Make sure you have a very quiet space. We do also have some facilities at our other branch libraries, if you live closer to one, that would be quiet, a meeting room or a study carrel. That would be quiet compared to like if you live with small children or an animal. I know my dog would probably not know how to be quiet while I was recording an interview. Could not be trusted. It would be awful. So I would probably not record an interview in my home. If you're visiting someone and you want to record in their home, again, just make sure it's quiet, make sure everybody's phones are on, do not disturb, all that good stuff, so that you don't get interrupted, because it always happens when they're in the middle of a good story and a phone goes off. Like, it's the worst. So we want to really try to avoid that. And another tip for recording is sound check. So you've set your phone up, you're ready to go in the home. You want to go ahead and press record and say a few words on both sides and stop the recording and listen back to make sure that both of your audio qualities are captured. And if you're recording video, that everyone is in the frame. And by, I mean, not everyone, your subject is really the only thing that needs to be in the frame. You don't have to be in the frame. And also, whenever you interview someone, you always want to make sure that the subject says their name, the location where they're recording if you're working remotely, and if they're comfortable, their age at the time of their recording. You also want to introduce yourself as the interviewer and say where you were located and share the date that you were recording the interview. That way that's all captured. So if you lose any associated information that you had about when you recorded it and where you were and all that, it's in the interview, so it doesn't matter. So just make sure you do all those things and you'll be good to go. And some resources for that. I'm going to jump back into that web page for a second. If we scroll back down to the doing your own interview section, pretty soon I'm going to have a using your cell phone and using Zoom to capture an interview video that was meant to have already been up, but my helper was unavailable to assist me. So we will get it up as soon as possible. And the other thing I wanted to mention is on this oral history resources page, there's information about our oral history toolkits. So if you do not have the ability to record from home on a smartphone, you can check out a recorder from any of our branch libraries with a library card. And there's a lovely video by Heather on here about what comes in that toolkit when you check it out. There's some quick instructions on how to use the recorder there. And then there's also a quick video here on how to operate the recorder once you have it in your hands. So if you'd like to check one of those out, again, available at all of your branch libraries, and you can put them on hold like you do a book and all that. And the next thing I'd like to talk about is making sure you preserve the story. So you went through all this trouble, right? You did all the questions. You got your family member to sit down and talk to you. You probably talked to them for like 2 hours. So we want to make sure that gets saved. So saving it on your own. We have this term in archives, lots of copies keep stuff safe. So, oh, my lights went out where I'm working right now. We're just going to go in the dark. It'll be fine. So the important thing to know is that you can save it at home on your computer. You can leave it on your phone. All that's great, but you want to store it in more than one location. So keep it on your phone, sure, but also then save it to maybe a free Google Drive account, or if you've got cloud storage associated with your device, save it through the cloud storage. You're going to want to make sure that you have it saved to multiple locations, because we live in Arkansas, maybe you drop your phone in the river. Uh-oh, where'd that recording go? So you're going to want to make sure that that is available in the cloud and safe. And some tips for sharing your interviews and basic editing. I usually just recommend people use cloud storage to share their interviews. You can upload an interview to YouTube, but be sure you're aware of what rights come with uploading to YouTube. the ability of someone to reuse that content becomes pretty easy. And obviously it's pretty accessible that way. So if you're worried about the sensitivity of what was discussed, YouTube is probably not your best bet. You're going to want to just share that file with whomever would like to listen to it through a share link through cloud storage or something like that. If you do start your interview and you've got some fumbles getting off the ground and you don't start really until you've already been recording for 30, 45 seconds, something like that. And then at the end of the interview, you forgot to turn the camera off and y'all talked about the weather or whatever for a while. You might want to trim the beginning and end off. There's a couple of easy ways to do that. If you have an Apple computer, there's a product called iMovie that comes on your computer. It's very easy to trim beginnings and ends off of that. There's YouTube videos available. We also have a creative lab at the main library where you can use Adobe's Premiere product to edit video. That's available for any patron to use. And if you have a Windows computer, there is a product called Video Editor where you can also just trim the beginning and end off. If you want to do anything fancier, like maybe clip some things in, add some extra screens and stuff. I've actually had good success with using Canva's free video editing product for that. So you might play with that a little bit. There's lots of YouTube videos for all of these things. YouTube is a wonderful place to learn things. And CALS also offers digital software courses to assist with video editing. So look into those if you would like to do that. And then last, I do want to put a plug in for donating your interviews. We have a very long-standing oral history program here at the Butler Center, and we would love to preserve your interview long-term so you don't have to worry about how many cloud storage locations you have it in, and we would provide access to it for anyone who'd like to listen to it. If you would like to donate your interview, we're going to hop into that webpage one more time for the very last time this evening. And if you scroll to the bottom here, there is a section on donating your interview. So the first thing you would need to do is have your interviewee and yourself complete this agreement. So for the agreement, you would need to, you are the interviewer for the purposes of the agreement, so you would fill out this section. And then the person you are interviewing would fill out the interviewee section. Do never have someone fill out this before you have interviewed them. You want them to be comfortable with whatever you have recorded being preserved, and you don't want to ask for that consent until they're positive about what they've said. That's just a pretty standard oral history practice, and it's a way that we show our subjects that we respect them. So that's basically everything I have for that. And if you are interested in donating your interview, you're always welcome to contact me. And we're going to go to the next slide. And that's my contact information. Danielle Afsorda, Community Outreach Archivist on the left. And then on the right, Heather, who gave our lovely talk about genealogy. Her contact information is on the right there. She's our programs and website coordinator. Our phone numbers are also there too, if you would like to call us. So that's everything I have.